Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Beth and I'm so glad you're here. Originally I was not going to do this video because I did a year wrap up and then I did a end of the year vlog where I was reading a couple of my books, but then I thought, some people may not want to see all year books and some people may just watch the December wrap up, because I did on somebody's channel and didn't realize that they did a all year wrap up. So, and then I didn't explain my December books as well in the whole year wrap up. So I decided I will do one. I read 19 books in December. So I read quite a few Agatha Christie. I have some romance. I have some thrillers. I have a sci-fi. So let's just go ahead and dig into these books. So the first one I read was a buddy read, and it was for the Christie's Missing Readathon, and I want to get to my pages in the back so that I can tell you what I rated them as well. And it was Five Little Pigs, of course, by Agatha Christie, and I gave it 5 stars. I finished it on December the 6th, and this is, of course, a Hercule Poirot book, and a woman is convicted of murdering her husband, but she writes a letter to her daughter, who reads it when she's older. I guess when she's older, I don't know. She reads it, and she's convicted of poisoning her husband. Her daughter doesn't think she did it, but she wrote a note to her daughter and told her that she didn't either, as well. So her daughter asked Hercule Poirot to, years later, go back and investigate for her, and so he does. And you'll have to read the book to find out what happens. It is so good. I really like this one, and I've watched the show. Awesome book. I enjoyed reading it with the ladies that hosted the readathon, and we had very good discussion with it. So, all right, the next one that I finished was one that I had started and then put down, and so I picked it back up. It was Crooked House, and I finished this one on the 8th, and this is about the Leonites, and they're a big family, and they live in one house, and it's called the Crooked House. And the grandfather of the narrator, wait a minute. The narrator is this gentleman who has proposed to this girl, and she lives in the house. Her grandfather is the head of the household. He built the mansion. So he's murdered by a barbiturate injection. And so she goes to the gentleman, the narrator, and tells him that they have to postpone their marriage and their wedding. Find out from his father, who is a Scotland Yard boss. I don't know what I don't know what to call him. He's higher up in the ranks in Scotland Yard. So he helps with the investigation, and I gave this 4 stars. It wasn't one of my favorites, but it was still really good, and I was glad that I read it. And I mean, 4 stars is a great rating. So the next one I finished was the group read of the Christie's Missing Readathon, and it was The Mysterious Affair at Styles. This was 5 stars, and it was a Hercule Poirot, and this was actually the first Hercule Poirot book, and it has Captain Hastings in it, and this is actually where they meet up, so to speak, and start their little investigations. And Emily Inglethorpe is poisoned, and they have to figure out who did it. I believe Captain Hastings is visiting a friend, and he goes and asks Poirot to help him. I think that's how it happens. Yes, I remember now. I had to see that she has remarried, or she's remarried, and she has these children are not hers, they're her stepchildren, but they call her mother because they're very attached to her. And Captain Hastings is really close to one of these boys. They're adults, and anyway, the new husband is very young, and so yeah. Now, if you can piece all that together the way I told it. Anyway, she's poisoned, and it seems kind of funny to Captain Hastings, so he enlists the help of Poirot, and Poirot then has to solve the case. So the next book I finished was actually a different. It was the new Jack Reacher book. It was The Secret by Lee Child and Andrew Child. And this is actually a 5-star read for me. 5 stars. I finished it on the 10th, and this was for the Reindeer Readathon. And I don't think I have those in here, so I can't tell you what prompt it was. It was the prompt where you had to find the words in the puzzle, and secret was one of the words that I found. I think it was the first word I found. My hair is like touching my nose and tickling it, and so I'm trying to get it off of my nose. Anyway, this is set back in 1992. And Reacher is tasked with investigating. He's the Army's representative of investigating why respectable, upstanding citizens are showing up dead, and they are mainly scientists, and there are 5 people on the team. There's a cop, there's Reacher from the Army, there's a FBI, a CIA. Anyway, they have to investigate and see why these people are turning up dead, what they knew, and it stems back to years before. The first murder occurs, are set up to look like accidents, but if you look a little closer, they can also be murders. So, and they find out they are murders. So those books are a little harder to explain. So that is why I'm keeping a better journal this year so I could explain those books. Okay, so the next book I read was it was an audiobook, and it was The Moving Finger by Agatha Christie. I gave this 5 stars. I really like this one. This is a this is about a brother and a sister who the brother has an accident and he has to go to a different climate to, well, a what's it called? He has to rest and recover. And so his sister takes him to this town, and there are some notes being sent around, and so they get this note about she's not really his sister, and the notes are really ugly notes, and so, but they're actually, you know, boyfriend and girlfriend or whatever. And so he becomes friends, he and his sister become friends with this young girl. Well, she's not young. She's about 20, 21. And she is the daughter of this woman who is married to this man. I can't remember what the man is. Some type of, I believe he's a lawyer, an attorney. And they have a nanny who is helping with the boys, their boys. But the daughter is just kind of cast away. And so they befriend the young lady, the daughter. And the daughter does not belong to the gentleman, the lawyer, but is actually from the first husband of the woman, in a roundabout way. Anyway, and so there is a little bit of a love story in that one, and it's really cute. I really enjoyed that one. Now, in the show, Miss Marple shows up, but I don't believe Miss Marple is in there in the book. I don't remember her being in that one. I think there's just an investigator and then the brother and sister. Okay, so 5 stars. This one was really good. Was on the 12th. It was The Sitterford Mystery by Agatha Christie, and this is about Captain Trevelyan, and he has a nephew, and there are six people at this seance, and then they're told that Captain Trevelyan is going to be murdered during this seance. And it says, is this black magic or simply a macabre, I don't know how to say that, joke? The only way to be certain is to locate Captain Trevelyan. Unfortunately, his home is 6 miles away, and with snow drifts blocking the road, someone will have to make the journey on foot. So people are staying in his, so they must find out they must warn Captain Trevelyan before it's too late, or it may already be too late. That one, 5 stars. I enjoyed that one. The next one I finished was the Har Tea Set and Other Mysteries. I had to read a short story collection, and I gave this one 5 stars. These were just a bunch of short stories that Agatha Christie, all kinds of her little sleuths in it, and it was very enjoyable. I listened to this one on audio, and it was 5 stars. These were some of my first run-ins with some of the not as prevalent as Perot and Miss Marple sleuths, and I really enjoyed it. Finished that one on the 13th. Then on the 15th, I finished A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, and everybody knows the story of Ebenezer Scrooge and how he's visited by 3 ghosts. The ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future, and he must learn his lesson or he will die very soon and be burdened with chains and not not a very happy ending. And so my thought is that Tiny Tim is the one who really changes his heart when he starts seeing things about Tiny Tim. You know, when the ghosts start showing him Tiny Tim. And that's what I've always felt. Things I've always felt. I mean, he kind of tears up at a lot of stuff, and he starts seeing lots of things that, you know, ways he should have been different. But when he starts seeing Tiny Tim, and then he asks about, you know, will he survive? That really struck me. And then, you know, he strikes up a relationship with that child. And it just, I don't know. Maybe it's not, but that's the way I've always interpreted it. So the next book that I read and finished was The Hound and the Fury. And I finished this for the Reindeer Readathon. It had to have multiple animals on the cover. And this is just a little cozy mystery, and it's Amish in mysteries. I have several of these. This is about I can't remember. Okay. This is Beans. The bulldog is Beans. And oh, there is a dog show in town, and Liz has like a bed and breakfast. Excuse me. And Beans is the inn's resident bulldog. This gentleman checks in with this little beagle. I guess that's what he is. I mean, that's what I would call him. And then he goes, he asks her to watch the beagle while he does an errand, and then he goes missing, and somebody turns up dead, and he's still not back. And so, yeah, it's cute. I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars, and I'm excited to go ahead and read more of these. I didn't read the first one, but because I had to have, you know. So the next one that I finished was Dean Koontz's The Good Guy. And this book is about Timothy Carrier, because I'm not good with names, so I was looking at names. And he goes into this bar to have a drink. And he just expects it to be just like any other ordinary night. And he is sitting down beside this man, and this man hands him an envelope. He mistakes him for somebody else, and he hands him a picture and tells him that 10,000 now and 10,000 when she's gone. And so he has to decide if he's going to take the money and run, or do away with the girl, or help her. Okay, so you got to look at the book. You got to know Dean Koontz. So it says, now everything Tim thinks he knows, even about himself, will be challenged. For Tim Carrier is the one man who can save an innocent life and stop a killer as relentless as evil incarnate. But first he must discover resources within himself that will transform his idea of who he is and what it takes to be the good guy. It was an incredible book. I was amazed. One day, it took me one day to finish this book. Oh my goodness. This book had me, I was just enthralled. It was, oh my goodness, this book was amazing. And the guy that's after them, because the real killer, they find out that he's not the killer. Tim is not the killer. And then the real killer comes after him. So, they knew he was going to, because they would figure it out. It's so good. Oh my goodness, it was so good. All right. So that was on the 17th. On the 19th, I finished In a Dark, Dark Wood by Ruth Ware. So this was my last book by Ruth Ware that I had to finish before of Ruth Ware. You know, it's the last one I have to read to be caught up on all my Ruth Ware books till she comes out with. I love Ruth Ware. I'm waiting for her new book. So anyway, I gave it 5 stars. And this book, Nora is invited to a hen party, and it's in the woods, and the girl that's getting married, she hasn't spoken to in a very long time, and she finds out some very devastating news once she gets there, and they don't think she's going to come because the of the way she left things when she left after school was out, you know, after she graduated school. And she hasn't spoken to what's the other girl's name? Claire. She hasn't spoken to Claire, who's the one getting married, in like 10 or 15 years. And so, yeah, and so finds out that she's marrying somebody that everybody knew who she was marrying, but nobody had told Nora. And so that plays into what happens. And I don't want to tell you who she's marrying because it's a surprise in the book to Nora. And so then, of course, there's, you know, it's a thriller, so things happen. I can't tell you anything. Oh my goodness. Anyway, it's okay. And there's a guy named James. All right, 5 stars. Now that we got that out of the way. All right, the next, I read Illuminati by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff, and I gave this 5 stars. This is about Katie and Ezra. They have just broken up, and then their planet is like attacked, and they have to board these ships and fight for, it's actually a fight for their life. And this is told in all mixed media, and I guess that's what you call it, like messages and file type stuff. And it's really good. Oh my goodness. It says the year is 2575, and 2 rival mega corporations are at war over a planet that's little more than an ice-covered speck. And so they have to work together, and the AI has gone crazy, and there's a deadly plague, and nobody in charge will say what's really going on. So Katie's a hacker, and she has to figure out what is actually going on, and she has to fix it. And it's so good. I can't wait to read the next book. So good. So good. So good. I'm so glad I got into this series. So then I finished that one on the 21st. Then I finally finished my Kindle book, which I do have the actual book too. But I finished this for the Reindeer Readathon, and I had to read a Kindle book, so this is what it was. And it was also published before I was born, and this is Nemesis, and this is where Miss Marple is contacted by Mr. Raphael after he has passed away, and he challenges her to right a wrong to let justice flow down like let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like an everlasting stream. And it was so good. I gave Illuminate 5 stars. But I gave this 5 stars, even though it took me almost the whole month to read. But anyway, so he pays for her to travel and to go to where he needs her to go. And then there are people that come into contact with her and help her. And so then she must solve the case. Then I read Shepherd's Abiding, and this was 5 stars. This is about Father Tim, and he acquires this nativity set, and it's in bad shape and it needs repair. And so he sets about repairing it, but he's not very good with this sort of thing. But he works at it. And there's also a young lady in here who wishes to purchase the bookstore that she's working at. And so they all must trust the Lord to help them. 5 stars. Very good read. Then I finished that one on the 24th. On Christmas Day, I finished Deeply Odd by Dean Koontz. This was a reread. I won't tell you. Oh, I will tell you. This one was so good. This is where Thomas goes in and he has to, there are 3 children. He sees them being sacrificed and burnt. If he does not save them, he keeps seeing this cowboy, and if he doesn't save these children, they'll be put on fire, sacrificed. And it's all more than that. It's like really like way more than that. And Mr. Hitchcock is back and assists him. Then I finished, for my page count, I finished Things You Save in a Fire. 4 stars. This is about, what's her name? Cassie. And her mom calls her and asks her for help. She receives an award one night, goes up, and the presenter does something, and she retaliates. And so then she must do some different things, and there's a love story in it. And yeah, it's a really good book. I gave it 4 stars. Then I read This Present Darkness by Frank Peretti, and this was so good. This is about Ashton, and it has a praying preacher in it, and his name is Bush, B-U-S-C-H. And there's a New Age plot to enslave the townspeople and eventually the entire world. And so this is the physical world meets the spiritual world. And this is a battle between the good versus evil. So this is demons versus angels and bad guys versus good guys. And yes. Then that was 5 stars. That was on the 29th. On the 30th, I finished Authentically Izzy. 5 stars. This is also told in mainly messages. And this is about Isabel, Izzy for short, and she is signed up for this, hold on. So Izzy's cousin puts her on this dating website because she's trying to play matchmaker. And so she meets Brody, who lives across the ocean, and they start corresponding about books, and they strike up a relationship. And then a professor whose name is Eli comes into the library where she works and asks her out, and it's really good. So I give that 5 stars. And I read that one because of Katie from Paperbacks and Ponytails. Then I read Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. I didn't suggest this for everybody because there are some things in it that are not appropriate. But this is about Kathy, Ruth, and Tommy, and they were students at Helsham, which is an exclusive boarding school secluded in the English countryside. They're told repeatedly how special they are by their teachers and the people that are taking care of them. Kathy is a young woman now, and she's telling this story, and Ruth and Tommy are back in her life, and she is a carer to Ruth and later to Tommy, and it is a long time before you realize what a carer is, and you hear a lot about donors, and it takes quite a while before you realize what is going on, what the plot of this story is, and it's very sad, and it really makes you stop and think about things that goes on in this book. So I gave this 5 stars, and I did cry, and this was my last book of 2023, and I finished this on New Year's Eve, so at probably about 11:45 I think is when I finished. So, and that's it. That's my wrap up. If you enjoy this, please give me a thumbs up, and if you want to see more from me, click that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video.